Frank Borman. In 1965, he and James Lovell went with the Gemini 7 capsule into space and stayed for 2 weeks to show that a human being can survive in space for so long as it would be then necessary to fly with a rocket to the moon and back. While they were doing that, flying there around in space for 2 weeks, they also made a little rehearsal with Gemini 6 and the Gemini 7 where they were in, coming very close with the two things to rehearse how a docking maneuver would work. And then 3 years later, in 1968, he, Frank Borman, James Lovell and William Anderson orbited with Apollo 8 around the moon. And that is according to the Reader's Digest Library of Modern Knowledge, Book 1, Part 1, Structure of the Universe, written by Ian Ridcliffe and John R. Shakespeare, on the page 50. Hi and welcome. I'm trying to learn space science today. Frank Borman, and after we've done it, we're going to do body center training. And if you participate in the body center training, then it's already on. Frank Borman, born 1928, American astronaut who commanded 2 historic space missions. In 1965, he and co-pilot James Lovell, orbiting the Earth in the Gemini 7 capsule, became the first man to spend 2 weeks in space, proving that man and woman could stay in space long enough to reach the moon and return. Okay, Frank Borman and James Lovell, they were in 1965, so 4 years before the Apollo 11 mission was to the moon, went way out into space in the Gemini 7 capsule and stayed there for 2 weeks to show that a human being can stay for 2 weeks in space without dying inside the capsule. Okay. On the same flight, Gemini 6 maneuvered close to Gemini 7 to perform the first rendezvous between manned spacecraft, although they did not dock with it. In 1968, Borman, Lovell and William Anderson in Apollo 8 became the first men to orbit the moon. I don't really understand now what is meant with Gemini 7. We had something previously with the first docking with someone, but I don't think we can save it in our presentation. I don't understand it. On the same flight, Gemini 6 maneuvered close to Gemini 7 to perform the first rendezvous between manned spacecraft. But I can say it. And also during that flight, they also used the opportunity to come with another capsule, Gemini 6, very close to Gemini 7, as a first little, what is it called? Rehearsal. The rehearsal of a maneuver where 2 spacecrafts docking to each other. And then in 1968, Borman, Lovell and William Anderson. Borman, James Lovell and William Anderson in Apollo 8 became the first man to orbit the moon. Okay, do I know it all? It is Frank Borman, and in 1965, with Gemini 7, he and James Lovell stayed for 2 weeks in space, proving that human beings can survive it. During that, also Gemini 6 coming close. In 1968, then also William Anderson. They orbited around Moon with Apollo 8. Okay, I'm going to start the same camera. Frank Borman. In 1965, he and James Lovell went with the Gemini 7 capsule into space and stayed for 2 weeks to show that a human being can survive in space for so long as it would be then necessary to fly with a rocket to the moon and back. While they were doing that, flying there around in space for 2 weeks, they also made a little rehearsal with Gemini 6 and the Gemini 7 where they were in, coming very close with the two things to rehearse how a docking maneuver would work. And then 3 years later, in 1968, he, Frank Borman, James Lovell and William Anderson orbited with Apollo 8 around the moon. And that is according to the Reader's Digest Library of Modern Knowledge, Book 1, Part 1, Structure of the Universe, written by Ian Ridcliffe and John R. Shakespeare, on the page 50. I'm going to stop the camera. And that was the space science part. If you were here for space science, you can go directly to the next part of space science, where we will continue with space science. If you stay here and participate in the body center training, then it's better here on the screen. The feet are standing shoulder wide apart, a bit down into the knees, legs by legs, press them together, straighten one leg. Bend it. Other leg, straighten it. Bend it again, and up. A bit further apart, a bit down, flex the legs, press them together. Go over to one side, to the other side. Middle and up. A bit closer together, press to the other side. One leg up, and right angle of the leg, flex foot, even aligned, just taller with the back, press on the top against me. And from the side. And press up and to the side. And press on the outside and out slowly. Back. Other leg up and press from the top. And from the side. And press up and to the side. And press on the outside. Up. Cross again. Now on the ground, 3 exercises. First on the elbow, side plank. Then one leg up. And now on the long arm, one arm out, one leg up, pull the knee to the elbow. And over to the other side. First on the elbow. And bend one leg up. And now on the long arm. One arm out, one leg up, pull the knee to the elbow. And up again. One heel onto the ground, pull the toes in, move the leg from left to right. Over here, onto the ground, pull the toes in, leg from left to right. And one leg up. The other one. Take a leg at the ankle. Tuck the tail in. The other leg. Straight back. Legs to the sides, breathing it down. In. And out. Breathe in across the legs. And breathing out. That was the body center training. I thank you very much, and until next time.